Have you ever reheated leftovers, thinking it was a quick, healthy choice? It's something many of us do without a second thought. But what if some of those everyday foods like spinach, potatoes, or eggs can quietly change when reheated, in ways that may not be so friendly to our bodies over time? Today, we're going to explore 5 common foods that doctors and nutrition experts suggest we handle with extra care, especially when it comes to reheating. This isn't about fear. It's about staying informed and making gentle shifts that support our health as we grow older. If you care about protecting your digestion, your memory, and your long-term energy, this video is for you. Stick with us to the end. You might be surprised by what's in your kitchen right now. And along the way, we'll share practical senior health tips to help you stay well, one mindful meal at a time. Spinach has long been considered a symbol of healthy eating, whether it's tossed into a fresh salad, blended into a smoothie, or gently wilted into a warm dish. This leafy green is rich in essential nutrients, vitamins A, C, and K, iron, and powerful antioxidants. For many older adults focused on balanced nutrition, spinach is a regular guest at the dinner table. But here's something most people don't realize. What happens after spinach is cooked can quietly affect how our bodies respond to it. You see, spinach naturally contains nitrates, compounds that are harmless in their original form. In fact, dietary nitrates from vegetables like spinach have been linked to benefits such as improved blood flow and lower blood pressure. However, things begin to change when spinach is cooked, stored, and later reheated, especially in the microwave or at high temperatures. Under those conditions, nitrates can break down into nitrites, and nitrites may further convert into compounds called nitrosamines. Why does that matter? According to studies published in journals like the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, certain types of nitrosamines have been associated with an increased risk of cancers in the gastrointestinal tract, particularly in the stomach and colon. Some emerging research also connects nitrosamines to long-term neurological changes, potentially contributing to cognitive decline or neurodegenerative conditions over time. For older adults, this matters even more. As we age, our bodies naturally become less efficient at cellular repair and detoxification. What we once processed easily in our 30s or 40s may linger longer in our systems in our 60s or 70s. That means even low levels of compounds like nitrosamines, when introduced repeatedly, could become more impactful than we realize. To put it in perspective, imagine preparing a big pot of homemade spinach soup on Sunday evening. You store the leftovers in the fridge for the week. On Wednesday, you reheat a portion in the microwave for lunch. The flavor may be just as good, but the reheating process may have caused subtle chemical changes that aren't visible, smellable, or tasteable. And if that's a regular habit, those small exposures can quietly accumulate over time. But there's good news. You don't have to stop eating spinach. In fact, it's still one of the most nutritious foods you can enjoy, especially in its fresh form, or when lightly cooked. The key is simply how you store and handle it afterward. If you've made a dish with spinach and have leftovers, consider eating them cold. Think of chilled spinach soups, pasta salads, or even rice bowls that don't need reheating. If warming is necessary, use low heat on a stovetop rather than a microwave, and avoid heating it more than once. And to keep it as safe and nutritious as possible, be sure to store spinach-based dishes in the refrigerator right away, and try to enjoy them within 1 to 2 days. These small choices, cooling, storing, and reheating foods with care, might seem minor, but over time, they support long-term well-being. For those of us in our golden years, paying attention to these subtle details can help preserve energy, mental clarity, and digestive comfort. Spinach still deserves a place in your kitchen. With a little extra awareness, it can remain a powerful ally in your journey toward vibrant living. Thoughtful preparation is just another form of self-care, and that's something we all deserve. Potatoes are one of those timeless comfort foods, simple, satisfying, and always welcome at the dinner table. From baked potatoes to mashed, they're often made in large batches and stored for quick meals later in the week. But there's something many people don't realize. The way we handle cooked potatoes after they've cooled can quietly impact their safety. Here's why that matters. When potatoes are cooked, then left to cool slowly, especially if wrapped in foil and kept at room temperature, they can create the perfect conditions for a bacterium called Clostridium botulinum to grow. This bacterium is linked to botulism, a rare but serious form of food poisoning that affects the nervous system. What makes it even trickier is that these harmful bacteria don't leave behind any clear warning signs. There's no off smell, no visible spoilage. Yet the toxins they may release can quietly affect the body, particularly the nervous system. And as we get older, our bodies often become more sensitive to these hidden threats, making it all the more important to pay attention to small food safety habits. Picture this. You bake several potatoes for dinner, wrap the extras in foil, and leave them out on the counter while you clean up. It seems harmless, But if they sit out too long before refrigeration, they may begin to develop conditions where bacteria can multiply, especially inside that foil, which traps moisture and blocks air. So how can we keep potatoes both delicious and safe? First, let them cool quickly, unwrapped, and place them in a sealed container in the fridge, ideally within 2 hours of cooking. When it's time to reheat, try to avoid using the microwave. Microwaves often heat unevenly, which may leave cold spots where bacteria can survive. Instead, use the oven or stovetop when reheating, or better yet, prepare only what you'll eat fresh. These small steps don't take much time, but they reflect a thoughtful approach to wellness. And for those of us focused on senior health tips, little shifts like these can help us feel more confident about what's on our plate every day. Eggs have always been a staple in the American kitchen, whether scrambled for breakfast, hard-boiled for a quick snack, or sliced into a salad. They're affordable, full of protein, and rich in nutrients like choline, which supports brain health. For many of us, eggs are a go-to choice for staying energized and nourished. But there's something important to consider about how we reheat cooked eggs, especially when using the microwave. While cooking eggs the first time helps make their nutrients more accessible, reheating them, particularly at high heat, can subtly change their chemical structure. When eggs are exposed to intense reheating, especially in the microwave, the cholesterol found in the yolk can become oxidized, forming compounds called oxysterols. These oxysterols have drawn attention in nutritional research. They've been linked to inflammatory responses in the body, which over time may play a role in chronic conditions such as cardiovascular disease or age-related memory decline. The tricky part is that these changes happen quietly. You won't see, smell, or taste a difference, but the internal effects may build up gradually. For older adults, this matters even more. As we age, our bodies naturally become more sensitive to inflammation, and our systems may not bounce back as easily from repeated dietary stress. What once felt like a harmless habit, reheating yesterday's eggs, may gradually place a subtle burden on our overall wellness. Think of a typical routine. You hard-boil a dozen eggs on Sunday to have on hand throughout the week. By Wednesday, you warm one up in the microwave before adding it to your breakfast. It seems convenient, but over time, that repeated exposure to oxidized cholesterol might be doing more harm than we realize. The good news is, there are simple, delicious alternatives. If you enjoy meal prepping, try eating hard-boiled eggs. Cold, they're perfect for salads, sandwiches, or even as a protein-packed snack with a dash of salt and pepper. If you do need to warm them, consider using gentle, low heat on the stovetop instead of the microwave, and avoid reheating more than once. These small changes don't require giving up eggs, far from it. They simply encourage us to handle food with a bit more care, especially as we look after our hearts and minds in the years ahead. In the world of senior wellness, it's often the quiet, thoughtful decisions like how we reheat a meal that make the biggest difference over time. Chicken is a favorite on many American tables. Grilled, baked, or roasted, it's lean, high in protein, and often the heart of a meal prep routine. Many of us cook chicken in batches, keeping leftovers in the fridge to enjoy throughout the week. But there's something important to consider about what happens when we reheat cooked chicken, especially at high temperatures. When chicken is first cooked, its proteins change structure, a natural part of making it easier to digest. But reheating it, particularly in a microwave or using high heat, changes the proteins again. This second transformation can lead to the formation of compounds called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. AGEs are something scientists have been paying more attention to in recent years. These compounds form when protein and fat are exposed to heat multiple times. While they don't change the flavor or appearance much, they've been associated with increased inflammation in the body. Over time, high levels of AGEs have been linked to age-related conditions, like high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, and even cognitive decline such as Alzheimer's. For older adults, this is especially relevant. As we grow older, our bodies become less efficient at managing chronic inflammation. Even small, repeated exposures like reheating chicken several times a week can quietly add to the body's inflammatory load, without us even realizing it. Let's take a typical example. You roast a few chicken breasts on Sunday, store them in the fridge, and reheat them in the microwave for lunch during the week. The chicken still looks and tastes fine, but each time it's reheated that way, the structure of its proteins changes a little more. It becomes slightly tougher, maybe rubbery, and quietly, AGEs begin to form. Fortunately, there are easy ways to enjoy chicken safely and deliciously. First, try to eat it fresh when possible, especially if you're cooking smaller portions. If you do have leftovers, consider using them in cold dishes like chicken salads or wraps. If warming is needed, reheat gently on the stovetop at low heat, allowing the meat to warm through evenly without overcooking. Microwaving is convenient, but it tends to heat unevenly and at high intensity, which increases the risk of forming AGEs. Taking a few extra minutes on the stove can make a meaningful difference, not just in taste and texture, but in long-term wellness. In the journey of senior wellness, small, mindful steps like this matter. By being aware of how we reheat our food, we can support not only our digestion, but also our energy, memory, and daily comfort one meal at a time. Mushrooms have earned their place in many kitchens, not just for their savory flavor, but also for their health benefits. They're full of antioxidants, fiber, and nutrients that support everything from immune health to heart function. But while fresh, well-cooked mushrooms can nourish the body. Reheating them, especially more than once or at high heat, may quietly change that story. That's because mushrooms contain unique proteins and enzymes that are heat sensitive. When they're cooked the first time, those components break down in a beneficial way, helping your body absorb nutrients more easily. But if mushrooms are reheated, especially in a microwave or at high temperatures, those same proteins can degrade into compounds that contribute to oxidative stress and imbalance in the body that's been linked to aging, inflammation, and weakened immunity. Let's take a real-life example. Imagine you've made a warm bowl of mushroom risotto for dinner using fresh cremini mushrooms, sautéed with olive oil and herbs. You store the leftovers in a plastic container and the next day, reheat them quickly in the microwave for lunch. The texture is different, maybe a bit rubbery or watery, but still edible. What you might not notice is that the delicate structure of the mushrooms has been altered, possibly forming oxidized compounds your body now has to work harder to process. For older adults, this can place extra strain on the immune system and digestion, both of which naturally become more sensitive with age. You might feel more bloated after the same meal you enjoyed freshly, or experience mild discomfort without realizing reheating played a role. So what's the solution? Start by preparing only the amount of mushrooms you plan to eat right away. Mushrooms don't store as well as other vegetables, especially once cooked. If you do have leftovers, store them in a sealed glass container, not plastic, to reduce moisture buildup, and refrigerate promptly. And here's a useful tip. Cold mushrooms can actually be delicious. Try adding leftover sautéed mushrooms to a chilled grain bowl with quinoa, spinach, and vinaigrette, or toss them into a cold pasta salad with fresh herbs and a squeeze of lemon. If you need to reheat them, use the stovetop on low heat rather than the microwave to help preserve their original structure. These small adjustments might feel minor, but over time, they support your energy, digestion, and peace of mind. In the bigger picture of senior wellness, even a little attention to how we treat our food can help us feel more balanced and resilient each day. Sometimes, the small things in our daily routines, like how we reheat leftovers, can make a quiet but meaningful difference. As we've seen today, even healthy foods can become less kind to our bodies if not handled with care, especially as we grow older. Choosing to enjoy meals fresh, chilled, or gently warmed on the stovetop can go a long way in supporting your energy, memory, and comfort. These aren't big changes, but they are wise ones, and they're all part of living more mindfully and fully in this season of life. So why not start tomorrow? A little more awareness in the kitchen is a beautiful step toward better senior wellness and a more vibrant senior living experience. If you're still watching and found this helpful, comment 0 or 1 below to let me know you're here. If this video spoke to you, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to like, subscribe, or share with someone who may benefit.